even better. Okay, hi. Scott Boyd, and this is the time that we're going to try to do and enjoy a quick presentation on eliminating racist comments or racism as much as we possibly can during UISA youth games. Here, besides myself, is Michelle Wixom, who's our assistant league commissioner, as well as currently the at least temporary SUIRL league commissioner, and Blaine Burnett, who is the commissioner for our adult association and runs that league. I have a brief, and I'm going to make it even briefer than it usually is, PowerPoint to talk about what our key issues are and what we think we can do to help. And then we'll end with a Q&A, and any questions, comments, we would very much greatly appreciate. Right now. Hopefully everybody sees that. Holly, nod if you see it. Thank you very much. And a couple more people coming in. Okay, so again, hi, I'm Scott. It's UISA. I think 2 or 3 years ago, we were starting to get more and more commentary about comments and consequences that were happening on the field, often games that went to heck. And we found out the reason the game went to heck is because of racist comments said either by players or parents or sometimes coaches that set everybody off. We then had, and you guys will find about a very bad moment a couple years ago during the summer. And so we've decided we're going to do everything we can to fix the problem to the extent we can. So that's what this is talking about, is trying to eliminate racist comments on the field, what we're specifically doing. Unfortunately, we cannot solve all of society's ills. We wish we could. Okay, I don't wish I could, but I bet Holly wishes she could. So we could go from there. Sorry, I've got something sitting in the way. All right, so the issue. Too many complaints of racist language being used by players and parents. Our goal is to do everything we can to eliminate the behavior through both deterrence and education. Here's our directive to referees. So this is if you are during a game. If I don't care who says the comment or where it came from or how people get the information, but a coach or a player needs to share the complaint to the referee. Once the referee gets a complaint, they do the following. They wait for a dead ball, they blow the whistle and send both teams to their benches. They go to the complaining team and they get the specifics. It's important to make sure that the player, parent, coach, whoever it was who heard it, feels heard. Go to the other team, tell the coach what was said. Remind the coach teams that comments like that are never acceptable. Obviously, if it was a comment that came from the sideline or from a parent, then we trust the coach to get with the parents immediately and say, holy cow, whatever that was, don't let it happen again. Bring back the teams back on the field, restart from the dead ball. Okay, and I'm going to back up slightly on that. We've been successful using this. I've had 4 or 5 separate reports where it's been used during the game. The good news is when it got used, there were no further issues in that game at all. We've had other comments and that we'll run into later where players said something and the referee heard it. That's a very different issue. This is specifically when the referee doesn't hear it, to make sure everybody feels that they've been heard and to make sure everybody knows we're not going to let this continue on. Purpose, everyone feels heard. Make sure the ref crew is cognizant the rest of the game. Let's face it, nobody likes to be called out. Okay. So if you're a player and saying, I didn't say it, okay, maybe you didn't, but I guarantee you're not going to say anything the rest of the game because everybody's keeping an eye on you. And that would be for parent, player, coach, anybody. Penalties in game, referee hears the racist comment. The referee has the discretion to deal with it. I will tell you, our referees have very, very little tolerance for any comments. Your likely result is maybe a caution, more likely an ejection.
Hey, Scott, we have a question in the comments.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So what if the comment comes from a ref?
Okay. report it to us. Every single coach and team manager has the ability to comment in the comment section on any game, to put that in when you're putting in the scores, to put in the comment section and get us the information. If we have video, that is incredibly helpful. Any information you can give me will be helpful, so that way we can start an investigation and to get it done. Because obviously that's not something we're going to be able to solve in the middle of the game. The reality is, if that does happen in the middle of the game and the referee does make a racist comment, what will likely happen is that game is going to go to heck in a handbasket, and I would imagine one team is walking off the field. Okay, I just get me the report as much information as you possibly can. I can tell you on behalf of Holly and everybody else from the referee side, there is zero tolerance for that type of behavior. You know, she's in there nodding. It's that's a pretty good way to guarantee that you're not a referee for us anymore. We've had some stupid comments from referees in the past, including one where a referee told a coach, "I don't want you coaching your kids in Spanish because I can't tell what you're saying." And the referee was then clearly explained that that's not his job as the referee. The coach is allowed to coach the kids in English, Spanish, or any other language that they would like. Okay, sign language, we don't care. That's not your job, referee. The only reason you're talking to a coach about what they're saying is if they're saying something inappropriate, period. So that referee learned very quickly that that was the wrong way to handle it. And near as we can tell, it did not happen again. Thank you for the comment. And yeah, we certainly hope that something like that will never happen, but yeah, we hope. Okay, penalties post game. League commissioner discretion. This is regarding if it's players. Players typically will get an additional game suspension, as well as I will require a letter of apology to whoever it was that they yelled at. If a parent made the comment, most likely it's going to be a zero tolerance situation. They're going to be done for at least the season, maybe longer, depending on the circumstances. If there's only stoppage, no further incident, we will still point it out to the club of the team that had the incident, so they are aware that it could have happened. I didn't even write down what happens if a referee does it, but I'll guarantee you what happens if the referee does it is they're sitting in front of the referee discipline committee, and they are dealing with them. And again, there's very little patience for that behavior. Next one, this word, which I'm not even going to say out loud. We have an issue where some of our communities have taken to using this word colloquially and using it with their buddies, and it's been thrown around. We hear it, unfortunately, too often. There we go. Summer 23, we had 3 separate players who got thrown out of full tournaments at the Far West Regionals and Regional Presidents Cup for using the word. Now, it wasn't like they were just using the word conversationally with a buddy. They were yelling somebody a blah, 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 N-word. Yeah, that got them ejected as well as should have. But here's the clarification. Don't use it. Don't let your players use it at practice. That's a key one. I can honestly say I was sitting watching a practice one time and I heard that word no less than a dozen times. It was not shocking. I knew what was going on, but it's just like, guys, how are you, if you're allowing it at practice, how are you going to expect the kids to make sure that they govern themselves at the game? It's referee discretion on what's going on. Obviously, if it's used colloquially with a buddy and they're not trying to be abusive, likely the referee looks at them and says, you know, if somebody on the sideline hears that, I have to eject you. Don't do that again. Okay. But if it's used in a negative way, it's going to be an ejection and likely an extra game suspension. Okay. This refs are on the same page. This is a very nice article that was done. Holly was done. It got picked up nationally. It's long, so I'm not going to roll through the whole thing. It's good. Later on, when you get the chance, review it. we've got the same article here in English as well as Spanish, talking about what the referees are trying to do on their side. Holly, do you want to give us just like a quick, a 1 minute synopsis of what all you were trying to get across with that?
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're on the same page with the youth and with the adults that we are not tolerating any of the racist comments that are coming from whether it be a parent, a player, or a coach, or even a referee. So, in this article that was picked up, it just basically explains what we feel and how we feel that we need to deal with it and what we feel we need to do in the future. So, yeah. But other than that, it's basically what you're talking about, Scott. So
Gotcha. And there was a quick question. Somebody said, are we allowed to make comments and all the rest of it? Please, I'm almost
absolutely.
Yeah, but absolutely, we will have an opportunity to discuss. One of the reasons I have Blaine here is because he's got examples of things throughout his rather long career. And despite the fact that Blaine looks about as Anglo as anybody could possibly be with the name Blaine ending with an E, he is from Mexico and has been coaching in UISA and or youth leagues for how many years now, Blaine?
32 years.
Through 32 years, often with primarily immigrant teams or Hispanic teams. And so he's got very good feel for exactly how things go and what the kids hear and frankly, what they're saying. Okay. Recently, so this was after last spring, we did this video. And the next thing I know, the U.S. Department of Justice reached out to us. They had heard of the effort to combat racism, reviewed our online PowerPoint from last spring. This is the gentleman's name, Clayton Fong, Conciliation Specialist, the U.S. Department of Justice Community Relations Service. Loved it so much that he suggested that they would use as a model for other youth sports leagues for combating racist conduct. So he liked what we were trying to get done. And then, and this is even more important for when we do have bad incidents, offered their conciliation services help mediate. So he is a contact that I have when we have bad incidents, especially when there's no question it happened and shouldn't have happened, and we don't have parties that are coming to their senses and working through it. We will definitely use him to help everybody deal with the situation because, frankly, that's one of the things that they deal with all day long. So they're going to be better at it. So we hope we never need to use them, but value the connection and the fact it's an additional resource. Okay, contact us with the issue. We can help you in English and Spanish. Most other languages, probably not so much. We have, well, let's see, one native speaker. What do we call Augustine? Mostly a native speaker, and then one RM, so he barely counts, but we still count him. He does okay. That's just picking on. So Creighton, Augustine, or Blaine are all good to be able to handle things in Spanish. And these are our contacts. So literally, that's all I have on quote unquote prepared. So yes, any questions, comments, concerns, things you can share, and things you want other people to hear when they see this video going forward, please go now.
Can you share a link to the article that Holly did? I never saw it, but I did see some LGBTQIA plus language in there. I'm an affirming father of a queer child, and I know that is what's upcoming as far as racist and stuff. Racist has been along for quite a while, and I think we're getting better at that. But the LGBTQIA plus is the new stuff that's coming up, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Good point. In fact, last night when we were meeting with the referees, there was clarification from Trin Anglin, who's one of our state youth ref administrators who helps out with the referees and their training, to reminding everybody is like, it's not just racist comments. It's any disparaging comments at all. If you're disparaging people for something other than their play, frankly, you are probably at risk of getting yourself thrown out of the game. So yes, it includes any community that from time to time is being frankly abused, and we don't want it on the soccer field. That's the whole goal of the game, and that's the goal of soccer generally, and that's what FIFA is probably most proud of, is the fact that everybody, okay, it's for everybody. You don't have to be the tallest, right? Messi's tiny. You don't have to be the fastest. Anybody can play, and that's the beauty of the game. And we want everybody to play. So thank you. It's a good point. Roy, you've got a hand up. Go.
Roy here. Hey, I just want to add that not only I'm glad that this is coming up, but I also want to highlight players, because I feel like players are being taught good things. So sometimes players are showing more class than adults. That happened to me up in Park City a couple of weeks ago, and I'm working through it. But I was really proud of my players and players not getting involved with an adult. I felt like just wanted to highlight that, and then also want to encourage. Like there should be no tolerance to this. There's got to be, fortunately, people have to be made examples of, and so I would just support that too as well. Just stiff penalties.
Yeah, and hopefully, I'm not sure if you were right there at the beginning, but when it comes to the penalties, yeah, the players are at least in the middle of the game and potentially heated and have whatever the reason might be, and frankly, they're young. You make them an example of them, and usually can get it fixed. If it's an adult dropping the comments, it's a bigger issue, and we're going to treat it as a bigger issue, and we're going to expect adults to act like adults, not children. And so,
I think we all would expect that.
Yeah, and so we do not have tolerance for it. I have zero tolerance for abuse of the referees. Do you throw in racial abuse on top of it? No, that's not going to last. So we will do what we can to fix it. So, Lauren, looks like you're up. Go.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say thank you for Roy to bringing that up, and I apologize. I actually am in Park City, and would love to hear more about that if that's something you're willing to share at some point. So I'm sorry that happened. Also, my question before that was, we were at a tournament in Salt Lake last summer, and it's one of those ones where we're all kind of crammed in, backs of benches against backs of benches. And we had some Asian parents on our team, and we noticed the team behind us. I didn't notice at the time, but they were making comments, such about, eyes and this and that and those sorts of things. And, a lot of us, it's a little bit tricky when you hear something like that. And again, not trying to figure out what the right course of action was. Like the parents that were Asian on the team, they gently talked to the coach, and they let the coach know that was happening. And the coach said he was going to address it. And I felt like that was probably the appropriate course of action. Just wondering if you have any guidance on things like that. Obviously, we're not going to address children that are not in our, in our circumstance, right. But what would you suggest?
They did it completely correctly to the coach, to the coach, back to the other coach. And then very much based on their reaction, right? The proper coach is going to be like, holy crap, really? Okay, that won't happen again. And they handle it, and you feel comfortable, like, okay, it's handled, right? We're not going to have that.
Sure.
Now, sometimes you get, anybody who has dealt with these accusations or dealt with the situation, the folks that are overly defensive make me very concerned.
Sure.
Right? Because the whole, my kids would never do that. Okay, then right. You don't know kids, and you're really not paying attention.
Right.
Kids will do things when they think they're being funny because they haven't quite gotten to the point yet that they
That's
realize
right. They don't understand.
That it's completely unacceptable.
Right.
So yes, direct to the coach. Then if it doesn't appear that got completely covered, you can reach out to UISA. It's likely a tournament that's affiliated with us in some way. We can figure out who the teams were, right?
Sure.
And then a gentle reach out to the coach And I will tell you, here's what I do. I reach out to the coach, to the team manager, to the director of coaching, and usually the president of the club whenever there's something like that happens. Because usually what happens from top to bottom, they're like, we need to send out some more information to all our people to make sure that this isn't happening and to make sure the coaches are listening to it. Right. So look, be aware, make sure. Again, we're here to teach our kids. We're here for player development. Part of the player development is how to be good human beings.
Right.
Thank you for bringing that up, Laura.
No, thank you. And it's so nice to see a face with the name that I get emails from all the time. So thank you. And Roy, I'm very serious. So I would love to talk to you more if that's something you want to talk about as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I can put my email in the chat.
Sure.
I've got, and looks like USA, did they open up? What do you got, gentlemen?
I got a question. For like PK shootouts, this recent one that I had, the refs were telling me that we couldn't get the players nervous or tell them anything. And I just wanted to know or ask her why can't we do it?
So it's a little bit off topic.
Sorry.
So but that's okay. It's an okay question. There's that fine line, right? So you've got 09 boys. Is that the age group that you're dealing with?
Yes.
So 16U, right? There's that. We're not professionals. It's still youth sports. We still have mom, dad, grandparents, younger siblings, etc., who are all there. You know, a lot of it comes down to what type of comments are you making? How are you making them? And for Pete's sakes, make sure they're not racist. So I think at that point, you are kind of a little bit at the mercy of the referee. You know, if the referee does come over and say something, then find out just like, great, clarify. What do you want me or don't want me to say? At the end of the day, youth game, it's going to be referee discretion, regardless of what I say. It's always referee discretion once we get to the field. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. Awesome. Anything else? Anybody in the room have anything to add? Because I guarantee you they've heard all kinds of things on the field.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep, we got you, Don.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say, thank you for holding this. I think it's helpful and it's a step in the right direction. My comments are more directed, not necessarily towards like the parents, because I know that me as a coach can't necessarily control what a parent does or says. I know that that's obviously a problem, but my experience since I've gotten involved, within the last few years in coaching, is more of like, I hate to say it, the refs. And it's not so much necessarily like blatant racism where they're telling us like, oh, you this and that or anything like that. It's more of maybe like a preconceived bias or something that they perhaps maybe don't know that they have, where they tend to make more calls against teams that are minorities. And the reason I bring that up is because my teams have been pretty much 99% minorities. And if you were to look at the stats of all our games, we are probably lead the league in fouls. And it's not because we're dirtier. It's just because I just feel that sometimes we get the wrong end of the deal because of the way we look. So my concern is more as, and we've brought this up. I know that we had an incident with Sparta where there was we were used to be part of Sparta, were made by ref to one of the parents of our coach at the time. When we brought that up to Sparta, they pretty much looked the other way. They said, no, that wasn't racist. So two things for me. One, is there any kind of training that, and I know that perhaps, the refs are something separate than UYSA, but perhaps as UYSA's partner with these refs association, they could maybe require some kind of diversity training, something that gives them, more of an education of dealing with people of different backgrounds, different colors, different, religions, races, whatever. And then the other thing is, for me, and I am Mexican, it is hard sometimes for me to bring up racism because I know that sometimes people won't believe me when I say it. And and so I'd rather not even say anything, and I let things go. And I know I can't speak for the Hispanic community, but I can say that I know a lot of people that are in my position that we would just look the other way because what's the point of bringing something up if nothing's going to get done? So my concern here, and sadly, I just came from a game at the Wasatch tournament where I feel like my son was kind of a victim of or targeted by by a ref. Again, he was a teenager. I understand he may not have necessarily the right tools to deal with this, but it ended bad. And I didn't say any. I mean, I didn't. You know, I went. My son got hit, and you know, on the floor he was crying, and you know, it again. I didn't want to bring up racism, but the same incident happened to the other team, and nothing. Like, and the ref stopped the game. He made sure that the player was right and everything. And with my son, he demanded that I carry my son off the field, literally yelled at me to get the player off the field when my son was hurt. And I told him, I'm not moving him until I know what's wrong with him. And he got so mad. He ended up giving our coach a red card. So it's just those little things that I'm a little bit worried about, that I feel that perhaps as a community, UISA, the refs, and just all these clubs, we can maybe demand some kind of diversity training and stuff like that that will expose, you know, refs, because not just refs, parents and players and everybody, because the bottom line is, you know, we still live in Utah where minorities are still a small percentage of the people that live here, and what can be racist to me might not be to somebody else. So it would be good to know that, hey, at least these people had the proper training so that they could maybe deal with these situations. And I know it's hard sometimes because these are kids, but you know, if they should know that some of this responsibility will fall on them, and it's a, you know, a serious thing. So you know, and again, at the end of the day, yeah, like we as parents are paying a lot of money to these clubs, to UISA, for the safety of our kids. And I know, as you know, from comments that I've read in the Hispanic community, a lot of us don't necessarily feel safe by the way that things have gone down in the last year. So that's all I want to say. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'd be happy to, you know, help UISA or anything. I work actually for the Department of Justice to get any kind of trainings that we needed to get us going in the right way. So that's all I want to say. Thank you so much.
No worries. Holly, I'm going to have you respond back on behalf of the referees. And then when she's finished, Blaine, will you follow up a little bit with your experience over the years? Go for it.
John, I'm the director of operations for the referees for the state of Utah. I can tell you right now that they are constantly being taught in that exact regard of what you were talking about. But just like you have players that are younger, we have referees who are younger, who are inexperienced. We have over 2,400 referees. So to get to each of them is a task all in itself. I wish we could have a Zoom every week. We have one every month, though. We have discussed about racism and how to handle it in every aspect. We've talked about it when we are invited on these calls as well. I can promise you the referee committee does not take it lightly. It is not something that we brush under the table, and we've been dealing with it for quite a while. So we have heard your complaints, and if you would love to talk more offline, I would love to talk with you and give me as many pointers as you'd like. I'm willing to listen, because we are always willing to work with everybody to make this an easier and better game for the kids to play.
Okay, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
And yeah, I'd be glad to, you know, I can give you my email, and yeah, we can get in contact. Thank you.
Perfect.
Blaine?
Well, first of all, John, I want to thank you for taking the initiative to come on, because a lot of people from our community, yeah, they're afraid to make a stink out of it because they feel they might be retaliated or somebody's going to point the finger on them. So the first step is like what you said, come out, let us know, because if people don't let us know, we can't do nothing about it. Does it happen? Yes, it happens. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but it does happen. But since I've been working with the youth, I think the first step is, first of all, it starts with the coach. The coach has to set the precedents with the parents, with the players, because we're not there just to win or to teach the kids. We're teaching character. To me, that's the main priority. Making it to the pros, that's the icing on the cake, right? Whereas teaching characters, that's our number one priority, to teach parents and players. But I think since I've been involved, whenever situations like you explain where a referee does that, then I always bring it up and I always talk to Holly. And then what we do is Holly does, she will send an assessor or pulls the referee aside to talk to them, to explain, to teach. It's a teaching moment. But like I said, if the first step is to let Holly know, let Scott know about these situations, because that's the only way we can solve the problem. Like I said, I've been doing this for 32 years, not only here in Utah, but in Georgia, coach at a very high levels. And I've seen it, but I've seen the change when people speak up. And I think it's important for you to let the community know it's okay to speak up, that nothing's going to happen to them, but that's the only way we can solve the problem. And it's something like you said, I know my community, Latino community, how we are. We don't tend to whine, so we keep it inside, but it won't change unless we speak out. So that's my experience.
Thank you, Blaine. And as always, yeah, bring it up. The other one that is key, cannot tell you guys, if you have the ability to record your games, oh my goodness, does it solve a whole lot of problems. I will actually tell you guys, this is about 2 years ago, did a large podcast along with the folks with lacrosse, with some of the rec departments, and with youth football, talking about parent behavior and other issues they're having and all the discipline issues. Well, youth football finally, it was about 1.5 years ago, got cameras on every single game. They now have almost no discipline issues because everyone knows it's being recorded. Okay. There's a lot of times, right? If you've got a video on the field, that's fantastic because we can hear things. And it's really helpful for everybody to be able to figure out exactly what happened. And the other thing I can honestly say, like John will tell you this and Blaine will as well, there's times a referee comes over and says, I can't believe what your parents are saying. And you're like, what? The parents are saying something? Because what's happening, you as a coach are probably directing or making a comment or talking to kids. You're not hearing your parents making comments. And so, it's a collaborative effort to try to do the best we can to try to solve all of these issues. And yeah, we'll work from there. Any other questions or comments?
I got one more, I guess, question.
Yeah.
What's maybe you covered it earlier. What's the timeline as far as like presenting evidence, hearings? What's the process and to a final result, good or bad?
Yeah, depends on how fast I can get the information, right? You get it into, so just so you guys know, every single coach has the ability, when you put something in your comments, there's a box next to it. So comments after the game, there's a box that says review requested. When you hit that box, that means it pops up on the front, on the top of Michelle's and my emails, or not emails. When we review, that game comes right up. Then we immediately start doing the research and figure out what the heck happened, figure out what evidence there is. So, Roy, a lot of it depends on how long things take, right? Let's get the information as soon as we possibly can. And yes, if it's something that's bad enough, we will do a full disciplinary hearing. That takes a bit of time because you literally have to go out and get volunteers to be on the hearing, etc. So it could be something that's handled in days. It could be something that's handled in weeks, unfortunately. A lot of it depends on how the evidence comes in and how quickly.
What if it's from a tournament, in my case? Like if the emails were sent and everything was out submitted, the same process, I'm assuming?
Same process. The tournament deals with it. So in order jurisdictionally, tournaments have their own discipline. So they deal with things usually within the tournament. But if they think it's something bad enough, they will then reach out to Creighton Atkin, who's our tournament director at UYSA. Again, reviews the information. If it's bad enough, he passes it on to me because I kind of then push things to the discipline. So
And Rory, we have your stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, there. Good question. Any others? All right. Hearing none, I'm just going to say thank you to everyone. But I think what I'm going to do is probably have Blaine close us out on this, because he's been lucky enough or unlucky enough, whichever way you want to talk about it, of being in the community for 30 some odd years, having minority teams primarily. And so he's probably got about as much information on how this works as anybody possibly could. Blaine, your thoughts on what we can all do to do better?
Well, like I mentioned, I think the priority starts with, when I have heard comments like that, my first step is not only to communicate to my parents about it's not acceptable. And if I hear from the other team, my first step is to go talk to the other team's coach to address the issue, to let them know, hey, this is not right. And and the response is always positive from the coaches. But like I mentioned before, I think my experience is that when we say something, that's the only way to fix the problem. Keeping it inside, it won't solve the problem. And I think it's just talking it out. And I believe that's the most important part, is to say something so we can figure that problem. And to be honest, it may be harsh, but get rid of those people who, can't change, because we don't need them in the game. We don't need them around children, to be honest. So, but I think that's where from 32 years, I've seen a big improvement. I haven't seen it, or I haven't really experienced it really for the last 5 years coaching. So it tells me it's gotten better. And I think we're moving in the right direction to it. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I think it's less and less every year. And I think we're moving in the right direction. And I think people are more open to talk about it. And I think that's the main point, is to talk about it.
Thank you, Blaine. All right, thank you, everybody. Again, we will make sure that this is able to be linked on the website. Hopefully I'll have it up by tomorrow, as well as the PowerPoint. The referees have been instructed on how to deal with the situations. We hope coaches reach out to parents to make sure they know, right? As a statement gets said and a parent hears it, tell your coach, let the coach tell the referee, let the referee follow the process. Just start screaming at people doesn't work for anybody. So we've got the process. Let's see if we can work it through and see if we can eliminate the problems. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you, and stopping now.